Well, hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 151. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And this week, we've got some demos. I was going to say, man, I almost said, I don't even know what I was going to say. I'm trying to say gear demos, and then I just got stopped. But gear demos of two plugins from Sketch Audio. Now, previously, we've covered and talked a lot about Dr. Vibe from Sketch Audio. So they've got two more out. I think it's Galaxy Brain and is it Fuzz Droid? Sorry, it's been a minute. Fuzz Droid. And so Curtis is going to demo them. He's got this crazy convoluted setup in StreamYard to make this work. So hopefully it works for you, but we did test it beforehand and it does. It's going to be cool. Curtis has all of that. And then we're going to talk, if there's some time, we're going to go to a round robin where we discuss what historical instrument would we play. So that should be fun. So everybody in the chat, think about that one while Curtis goes through and shows us all of that. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Smiling Ears is here. Mike tapped watch, and he's watching now, I guess. So it worked. It worked. Look at that. Like if you wish it were like genies or something, we popped out. Here we are. Abby is in the chat. How are you? Good to see you. We've also got Eon Lake pulling double duty. So with that, my name's Sunwarper, and with me today is Eon Lake pulling double duty in the chat and live. What's going on?
What's going on? I have no idea.
That's a good way to live, man. That's the best way to live.
It's just eating plant stuff, every day.
Yeah. Just getting through it.
It's 2 weeks and I'm here consecutively. I'm happy with that,
That's crazy, man. You feeling all good? You feeling better?
I try and aim for that first, and anything else that follows after that's a bonus. But yeah, I'm feeling okay. I'm still sounding a little
very radio
quite right, but that's
I just think it gives you even more of a baritone sound. I like it.
I'm just fishing for sympathy. That's all it is. It's pretty obvious, pretty basic.
Well, it's working.
I'm fine, really.
Well, it's good to see you, man. I'm glad you could make it twice in a row, and now we can talk some interesting. This is more up your alley, a crazy fuzz and a crazy delay plugin. So I'll be curious to hear your thoughts and how you would want to implement these. Because I think the fuzz. We always talk. One of your favorite ways of transitioning between parts in a song is taking a segment and then throwing through a bunch of effects, right? And from what I got to do with Fuzz Droid, I had a little bit of time with it, but Curtis is the one taking the reins on this one. I was like, ooh, this would be perfect for that. It's kind of like a roided out Dr. Vibe for fuzz and distortion and stuff, Anyways, yeah, steroids.
I'm not sure what you mean there. I'm thinking hemorrhoids.
Steroids.
I don't want to know.
I guess if you don't do much exercise, you wouldn't get. But I'm talking steroids. I've roided out steroided out Dr.
It's a little bit of shade thrown in there as
well.
But
I guess it could still work because it's fuzz, so it could still work. Maybe you take your mind out of the gutter there, Eon Lake. But anyways, with that, let's just move past all of Eon Lake craziness and get right over to Curtis. What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. Not with the hemorrhoids or the steroids this week, so I'm taking that as a plus. Always
eat healthy.
I'm trying to be.
Stay hydrated.
And I've got a new flavor of chamomile, so I'm pretty good. We're pretty good in that regard.
All right, man. Yeah, take a big loud sip for the microphone. Good job. Yeah, don't worry about muting yourself.
I'll worry about it. I'll worry about it when we get to 1,000. When we get to 1,000 subscriibers, I'll start worrying about it a little bit.
Oh, so it's only if people are watching that you care? There are people watching.
There are people watching, yeah. We're at 599 right now, and I'm watching it tick over. So, yeah, slowly as it goes through, then I'll mute.
Here's my thing: what if the tea sipping stops those that would get us to 1,000 from subscribing?
Then they're not the people for us, are they?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know about
tea sipping enthusiasts. I thought that was
yeah, tea sipping enthusiasts. That's what we're looking. That's our niche. Our niche in YouTube is tea sipping enthusiasts who also happen to like ridiculously nerdy synth talk.
Yeah.
Very niche.
You and maybe one other person, Curtis.
I think on the one hand, yes, I hear what you're saying. On the other hand, it's a perfect opportunity to sample something, and we do a lot of sampling here on Audionaut. So It's always a good thing. It's always a good thing.
There's probably a hi-hat in that, maybe a cymbal if you reverse it. I don't know.
Maybe put Fuzz Droid on it, and you've got a really crazy sound.
It does get gnarly.
Cut the decay. You know, you could get like an open hi-hat and then cut it even more, get a closed hi-hat. Yeah, look at that. We're full of ideas for tea-sipping synth nerd enthusiasts.
Love it. How about you, Sunwarper? How's your week going?
All right. Been working on a new live set for the SP, taking songs from all the stems and stuff, and just I kind of finalized it. And then I think on Saturday for my live stream, I'm going to show kind of the process of like looking at the stems, figuring out, okay, for this track, I can cut this synth part and use that and things like that. And then things to be aware of if you are using the stem separation method, of how to avoid as much artifacting sounds as possible when it comes to replaying it in a live setting. So that's been fun. And then just editing a new video on a piece of gear I got. So yeah.
Cool. What piece of gear?
Well, the tracker, the S1, and then one other one.
Okay, so you're full of the hardware. Full of the hardware at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, lots of hardware. And then I also need to make a video for Fuzz and Galaxy Brain. So I'll be watching intently your demo.
No pressure then.
Eyes are on, man.
Well, fair enough.
Okay, wait, hold up. I just saw in the chat, Eon Lake said, bit of Paul stretch on that T-sip. That could be interesting. That's your next demo, Curtis. You're gonna live demo
out of it.
He's gonna live demo T-sipping into Paul stretch.
That could be quite fun. And
then we'll see what we get out of it. Throw it in on a sampler chromatic mode. Maybe we've got like some notes coming. That could be interesting.
Okay, I hear you. I can take that. I am hearing myself all of a sudden. This is going to be an interesting demo.
You might.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, the way you have the routing. So Curtis has some crazy routing issues when it comes to StreamYard, where like when I demo, I listen on this one, even though the sound is coming from the other computer. So I get latency, but I can actually hear. His StreamYard doesn't play the sound. So I think he has to like hear himself talk in an infinity loop. So he's being brave. We're going to see how this goes.
It's going to be an interesting one. So we're going to have to go through it as best we can, and that's okay. It's going to be fine. So let me bring this up. Let's have a look. While I get this set up, someone will tell us the story, because this is the second time that we've brought Sketch Audio to the show. Tell us about the journey from Dr. Vibe to here.
Yeah, well, I think you can give that a little bit better in terms of the actual plugins, because like I said, I didn't have much time to check them out yet. I put Fuzz Droid on some of my drums and was like, ooh, yeah. But long story short, Sketch Audio hit me up a while ago with Dr. Vibe and a couple other sounds. And then we had Ryan come on the show to talk about actually being a plugin developer, right? Because we, all three of us, are just music makers. We love using this gear. We love demoing. We love checking out plugins and all that type of stuff. But at least on my end, and it sounds like for us too, we don't think about the actual development behind it, right? And there's a lot of interesting aspects that come into play. And one thing that really intrigued me with Dr. Vibe is it's based off of, or part of it is based off of the SP303 compressor, which Ryan studied and tried to emulate, because SPs have some really cool compression. And so he came on and talked about how he did that, sort of studying it, tried to emulate it in software and all that type of stuff. So I'm hoping Ryan can come on at some point again to talk that angle with some other plugins and things. He also does synths and things like that. But yeah, he hit me up recently with these new ones, and so we're going to demo them. And so full disclosure, as I said, he did send these over, but our opinions are our own. We're not sponsored or anything like that. So if you do want to help support the show, you can check out patreon.com/audionautic. But Curtis has these. Now, I do just want to mention, and we'll cover this, but they work on any operating system, but they're also iOS and mobile. So you can use them as mobile effects, which I think plays a pretty cool role, having very unique plugins on iOS software like DAWs and things like that. With that, Curtis, you've got it loaded up. Tell me about these.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm coming from inside the DAW, and me and you, we had a bit of a back and forth about this in preparation for the show. because yes, it's a whole other ball game coming from iOS. We're looking at this mainly through the DAW as VSTs, which is absolutely fine in that regard. They're pretty cool. And there's a lot to play around with, and there's a lot to kind of get your head around in that sense. They're fairly simple, and the wonderful thing about Sketch Audio is that there is some universality in there. So, for example, this is Galaxy Brain here. If I open up Fuzz Droid, as you can see, same kind of UI, same kind of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is.
I think he even mentioned, Ryan was talking about that he kept it very simple with sliders and the UI, so that, well, one, it translates to phone and iOS, but it's also just easy to read and navigate, which I actually really like, especially with Dr. Vibe. Like, it's you can just start tweaking things real quick and get cool sounds.
Yeah, entirely. There's nothing we often see with paid VSTs, especially more in these days, where the UI is very heavy and it's very busy. There's lots going on because, hey, it's flashy and it makes sales, right? But this is very stripped back, and it's really within seconds you are moving and diving in there and moving things around, and it's very intuitive and it's very nice. As you can see, this for the Africa Galaxy synth over here, very nice and simple. Before we start playing any sounds, you can kind of see, even if you're very new to music production, you can see really nicely that they just they work, and you know what you're affecting as you play through.
Sorry, I was just running through. I wanted to get the prices, so I was muted. But what else do you want to say? Because I all of his plugins, or Sketch Audio's plugins, it looks like have a 2-week free trial now, and then if you want to keep them, you upgrade. Even on, well, at least for sure on the iOS store and App Store, Mac OS, all that. I think even on others, probably there's the free trial. But I want to say they're around $15, but I need to verify. I'll keep looking while you demo. But go ahead, Curtis.
That's good. So let's start with Galaxy Brain. Galaxy Brain is a pitch shifting device, which is really nice and easy, and it can get quite glitchy and kind of. If you're a fan of anything like Codec or Crush or anything like that, which is a bit crusher and a glitch machine, basically. It's a really good fun. So I'll just give you the dry signal. Tell me if it's too loud, if it's going to destroy your ears. I apologize in advance. I can play around.
Probably tone it down a little bit, but that sounds good.
So we're obviously going to lose some of the quality coming through the compressed audio of StreamYard, but that's okay. That's totally fine. If I just bring this in and I can blend in the wet straight away, you can see what's kind of happening through.
Oh.
Really start mangling. Right? And then if you keep this playing.
Hold on. While you do that, it might have some noise reduction going on. I'm just going to check the settings.
Have a look before you go. So before I get into this, so you can see from the offset, I'll go with the modulation for a sec. You can see from the offset, you've got quite a lot of bending coming through. Then you go straight into the delay, which can mess it up even further. You just can't handle it. It's great.
Hey Curtis, do you have a mic going through or something on your demo one? Because we're getting like a total echo on there.
No. I am playing with a delay.
No. It's your mic, and any mic is coming through the when I unmute this. See? You probably don't hear it, but there's a total echo. Right? Oh, well, now you're just gone. You're still gone.
I've got no mic coming through. I've only got my mic coming through.
Okay, let me ask you this then. How are you routing the audio? Is it just everything coming through your computer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why we have an echo then.
So, well, my broadcast sound for me is coming through this laptop, and there is no microphone coming through on my.
I understand that it's not picking up the mic; it's picking up any audio from StreamYard and echoing it. You get what I'm saying? I don't know how's that. I'm asking how you're routing it because that might be what's causing it. Whatever unused that you're using, if you're capturing StreamYard's total audio or something, or your computer's total audio, it's catching all of the mic. Not just your mic, but like any one of us talking.
Okay, how's that then?
Let me unmute it. Oh, now it says you muted it, so you'd have to unmute that. Smiling here says he's put delay on the live feed. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still getting it. Coming through. Okay, how's that now?
I think that solved it. Yeah, I don't hear it now. Now we just have to see if we're getting the DAW.
Okay. All right. Okay. Nice. See that? Nice. See that?
Oh, and the echo came back. All right, set it back, and what we'll do is when you demo, we won't talk, and then when you want to talk, just stop, and I'll mute yous.
Okay.
The beauty of live streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whose idea was that, Sunwarper, to do all this live?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I do.
If it wasn't for the live stream, we wouldn't have our awesome chat, though, would we?
That's true.
Yeah. So
are we getting? Are you getting it now?
I have it muted. So when you're ready, let me unmute it, and then we won't talk till you need to. And then when you stop it, just wait a second so I can mute yous. Oh, now you have to unmute it. Actually, if it's on you, you got to mute it when you first mute it.
How's that? Yeah. So, already you're getting an idea of what is going through with just the standard pitch shifting itself is. Then you come across over here, you've got modulation through LFO and as a sequencer. LFO is LFO and it's quite nice. I'll play that in a sec. But what I do think separates this slightly is their use of sequencer. They've got an 8-step sequencer in there where they can play around and create a rhythmic pattern with the pitch shifting in its own right. Before I start playing with it, is there anything you want to say to that?
No, that looks sick.
Mm-hmm. So instantly you can see that you're turning what is essentially just a synth playing some chords into something that's quite rhythmic and quite nice. And this adds another layer to it when we start talking about bus effects and things like that. Now, both of these run in parallel and it's fine. And we'll get to Fuzz Droid in a second, but a common theme, what I found quite nice with this is blending the wet and dry signal through parallel processing really brings in some really nice, interesting textures when they come through. So, for example, if we simply send our Galaxy Brain, if we send our synth, to a Galaxy Brain bus, you can hear a nice blending, some nice texturizing coming through. Really nice for ambient, really nice for sound design. Lots of people use Vital and things like this, which is really nice. But this is another way of doing it, which can be more in the box with stock plugins and turn those stock plugins, which into something completely different and something completely brand new. For example,
hold on, wait a second. We lost completely Hughes. He's out of StreamYard. He's just gone. He just left us.
Okay, let me bring it back.
Yeah. While you do that, Eon, what do you think about this? Let me hear. What's your thoughts on how you would incorporate this? I think what Curtis is saying about the sends makes a lot of sense. That could be pretty trippy in the background, like underneath some stuff. But I'd be curious. And you're muted, Eon, currently. So
Sorry, I was having a cough. Yeah, I find with some of these effects that can be really quite drastic, the heavier ones, that it's almost like you need a bit of the original material to hear the difference between it and what the plugin is doing to it in order to get the full joy from it. It seems like the potential here for some really quite serious mangling is
right.
It's definitely there, and you know me well enough to know that's enough to hook me. I like to just try and destroy things first. I mean, I often
the new T-shirt. Yeah, I like to just destroy things.
True. There you go. There's another limited edition Audionautic T-shirt. I often have to pull back a little bit later on, but I mean, I like to start with super extreme just to hear what's possible. And as far as actually incorporating it, I mean, it sounds great for sound effects and for special effects and things like that, because you can tell it can be quite savage. Whether or not there are subtleties in there that can enhance things, I don't know. It would need a bit of playing around with it to find out. And obviously, if you've got a couple of weeks to do that free, then why not have a go, see what you can do with it. But yeah, I think it's definitely got potential, especially I think teamed up with the next one. If it's got good saturation or distortion, it might help, really destroy some audio so that you can use it as a special effect or something deliberately weird.
Yeah, I would love to throw it through all that, sample that, and then chop it, and then you get some new melodic phrase out of it. That'd be a really cool way to do sound design on something. As I do a lot of sampling, right? So that's where I first think you do something with that sequencer, right, Curtis? Set up the sequencer on the sound, and then record maybe a 1 minute of just seeing what happens, tweak the sequencer a little bit, do all that type of stuff, and then find little chops in there that could be almost like a chord progression out of it or something. That could be really cool. All right, I see it looks like it's back. You want to test it, or do you need to check anything beforehand, Curtis?
I think it's good. If you hear that,
I don't have it in yet. Hold on. You got to unmute use real quick. If you mute it, then I can't unmute it and mute it. So that should work.
Cool. All right. So yes, we have the dry signal coming through. If I just mute Galaxy Brain on the original and then send it to send B. You can see that the subtlety.
Hold on, I gotta mute.
It's more subtle, right? Which
go ahead, one more time.
You can say that it's more subtle in that regard, right? So they're very, especially with most pitch shifters, they're very in your face and they're very heavy and they're very we are mangling sounds. But you can take the parallel signal and you can create something not more listenable. I don't like that because it suggests that it's unlistenable, but something more subtle and something more kind of something more dainty, so to speak, than just in your face we're mangling and making glitch.
Yeah, without going crazy, it sounds more like a bit more like traditional modulation effects, like chorus, phase, and flange. They're a bit more subtle with some dry signal in, but very useful for making effects and rises and stuff like that. You could. Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah, or even controlling it so it only comes up maybe right before the track changes, right? So you automate the send so that it only comes up in important times, or when the chorus hits, that's where that comes underneath the main sound. That could be really cool for sure.
And the sequencer alone is pretty useful, even if you turn the other effects off. Just having that's kind of useful for putting rhythm into something without, making it too regular.
I think it reminds me of Transit from Baby Audio and Transit 2 in that sense. Like it's very good at creating textures, and if you were to automate those parameters in their own right, you don't have to necessarily go spend $100 on a baby audio device. You can cobble these guys together, and before you know it, you've got the same kind of effects coming through.
Yeah, I mean, sonically, it reminds me a little bit of Portal by Output, which is brilliant. But it's more of a granular effect, that one. But some of the kind of timbres it produces are a bit like this: crazy pitch shift, glitchy, choppy sort of sounds out of sustained harmonic material. And who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? Any more on Galaxy Brain, or any questions on Galaxy Brain before I head across to Fuzz Droid?
Yeah, I wanted to ask one thing. Is there any patch or preset you made that is really intrigued you, that you would use on a track or something? Like anything that got you kind of inspired?
Presets I weren't particularly enamored. Isn't a negative term. I don't like that, but I instantly went for the default and started mangling, in the sense of I'm coming from a space of I'm coming from the mic perspective, right? So there's a pitch shifter in Ableton, and so I was looking for, okay, why would I use this over the stock Ableton plugin? So I went straight for that as opposed to the preset, because there's nothing going on in the Ableton one. There are some interesting sounds that you can come through, and if you have a look here, like I say, again, coming in the parallel, if you take multiple instances of the same plugin and slightly alter the parameters. So for example, here you can see the shift I've put together at the 500 at -18 and the 5K at 5.76, mucked around with it, for example, put them in parallel, that creates some really interesting sounds. I think.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Did you put it on 8 bass lines?
What a great idea.
Yeah,
that is really cool, though. I'm not taking away from that.
So we know what one sounds like.
It's the Lord of the Rings. We've already had one Galaxy Brain. What about second Galaxy Brain?
Exactly. But I think
can we hear what that sounds like real quick, Curtis?
Yeah, sure. Hang on. Let me put this through. So this is on. This is channel 2, isn't it?
But before you, just before you hit play, let me know so I can unmute, so we don't have that echo.
Yeah, unmute me.
That's actually okay. I'm gonna mute it. That's actually really cool. I was like, is that the hi-hat that's doing that? But then you soloed or isolated, bypassed those, and it was just the drum, and then you add it back in, and it added all of this melodic almost content to it. That's really cool.
That's cool. You could tune beats to certain
pitches
and whatnot. You can have some fun with that.
That's really cool. Okay, cool. I'm glad I asked that question, because that's a really cool use of it. I want to try that now. That's sick.
It's really useful, and it's really cool, and that's what I liked most about Galaxy Brain is, yes, you have presets down the side, and they are interesting, but the fun of it really is because, again, coming with the UI, which is so accessible and so user friendly, you're dialing stuff in and you're creating something that no one else will ever think of, and it really lends itself to that notion. So in that regard, fantastic.
Yeah. Should we move over to Fuzz Droid, or is there anything else on Galaxy Brain you want to cover?
No, I think just go have some fun with it. I think you're right with the idea of the 2-week trial. It's definitely worth a shout. So yeah, and Fuzz Droid, there's a lot of fun in there as well. So let's get to that.
Let's do it. All right. So tell us a little bit about it, and then let's hear some sounds. So
somewhat more run of the mill. It's a lovely distortion. It's a lovely fuzz pedal. And I did put a clean guitar sound through as per your request to see what that would sound like. So,
nice. Yes.
A little bit of that coming through. I've got a drum opportunity. I've got a drum example here, and I've got a guitar option here. It's really nice because there's a limiter in there as well. You can get monstrous. So if you're interested in making things like tear out dubstep, or there's what are they calling it right now? Funk.
What do the cool kids call it?
TikTok's really big with funk right now, and it's distorted as hell. And this is a really good way of getting that. So if that's your vibe, this is something you should check out.
Yeah. All right. Let's start. I mean, let's have Eon like drums or guitar. I think I know what your answer is going to be first.
That's not a question. Yeah, and you answered it in the question.
No, we're going to do both, but which one first?
Drums before guitar.
I knew you'd say that. But guitar's so fascinating with fuzz.
Wait for
let's
it.
do the drums. If Eon like wants it, Eon like gets it. Let's hear it.
So I'll give you the bypass. It's just a 909, nothing special.
Hey, destroy it.
Before they get too gnarly. It gets gnarly.
So, and then over in the advanced, you probably just haven't covered it yet. The smooth, what is that function doing? Is that like taking off some high end or something?
As far as I can tell, I haven't played around with it too much, but as far as I can tell, essentially it takes out the transients, essentially.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
So if I play it through, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it kind of lends itself to making a cleaner transients between the sounds. As far as I understand it, in my tiny space chimp brain, it allows for that. It's potentially not as clear cut as I'd like it, but it could just be that I'm not knowing essentially what it does enough in that regard. But it creates some interesting ideas. I think combining the smooth with the bias, that's again coming back to that glitchy stuff, and that's coming back to that kind of heavily bent sound, which is really interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, I really like hearing when it really starts to clip and come in. It's doing a lot. And then I noticed when you're changing the bias, it's like almost, I mean, this is coming through latency and all the resolution issues and stuff, but like it's changing the high end or the low end and kind of emphasizing certain aspects and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of chopping it out. Which again, if you've ever used codec or anything like that, it's a very similar kind of situation. It's fun. It's interesting.
Eon, like anything, since you wanted the drums, anything you want to see or do? Oh, wait, real quick. We have 2 types, Curtis, on the bottom there. Go back to it. It's gone.
Oh, it's gone. Hang on. Give me a sec.
It's disappeared, man. It says I'm out.
Here we go.
Here we go. There's type and then placement. What are those 2 saying? It's a little
Placement's pre and post, isn't it?
Ah, there we go. And then type on the left there. What do those say? That's cool that it's got that.
I don't know myself. I didn't play with these. I won't lie. I can tell you what. Let's find out.
Let's do it. Let me unmute. Sounds like it's a little darker, right?
CP3 plus. It's a bit brighter.
Yeah.
Should be something that you want to do.
Cool.
I suppose if you're destroying the sound, you might lose some of that low end. So that's a nice way to kind of balance that out. I don't know what CP3 plus stands for. If anyone playing around knows, let us know. We'd love to know.
Hold up. Wait. Modular mixer. Fuzz Droid is a distortion effect based on the gain stage in the OG CP3 modular mixer. Its sharp, asymmetric discontinuity makes for a unique and aggressive sound. If you find the main circuit a little too rude, we also included a smoother curve from the same module. So that's what the smooth is doing. It's calming that. Custom smoothing function for taming harsh artifacts. Use bias controls to vary how you hit the sounds. Flexible tone shaping filters. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. So that's it. So it's modeled after a modular mixer. Does that one sound familiar to you at all, Ian Lake?
No, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to look it up. You can be sure of that.
There you go. Yeah, here, let me see real quick if I can. Yeah, like Corey is saying, it's positive or negative. Yeah, that's what it's doing. But let me just share a screen here. Hold on. Are you guys seeing this or do I need to add it? No, I need to add it. Hold up.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Fuzz Droid. Based on the OG CP3 modular mixer. So there you go. Crunch it. There we go. Yeah, so the CP3 minus is a smooth curve for a heavier sound. There we go. The plus has the heavier
harmonics, though. It's a bit more like saturation.
I did too. Yeah, I really liked when you start adding the drive and stuff. It really adds these harmonic tones to each drum sound, that each drum hit really, and really makes it just sing, right? You know, like for a drum sound, it changes it. It gives it so much like soul almost.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up that CP3 modular mixer. Curtis, anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah,
we got to do the we got to do the guitar too.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah, if we bring this back up, I just want to say, okay, so yes, you can absolutely destroy things and you can get incredibly trippy. But again, I just want to come back to this notion of blending in parallel, essentially, because again, on my first return track, I've just got a simple crunch with a little bit of headroom in there going. So if we play the 909.
Hold on, I'm trying to find something. Can you unmute your channel?
Yeah. So as you can see, decent saturation plugins tend to be a little bit more expensive, and they tend to be very kind of CPU heavy. Sound Toys is fantastic, for example, but it's not the cheapest, and it's quite CPU heavy, relatively speaking. But if you see when I'm playing, if you have a look. If you look up in the top right corner, you can see my CPU usage is only going between 7% and 8%, which if you are on a laptop or if you're on an older laptop, that's a significant amount. So like you can get a really heavy and decent saturated drum sound through parallel processing for very cheap. The plugin itself is very cheap, but also it's very cheap on your CPU, which is always something very important to consider.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's one thing I find they're pretty, and I think that's partially because of the simple but easy to use layout, right? That it's not too CPU draining. So it looks like, and I don't know modular stuff, but it looks like the CP3 might originally be a Moog mixer, and then there's a bunch of like, I don't know if I'd say clones or whatever, but if you look at CP3 modular mixer, there's a ton of them. So I don't actually know what that is, but obviously it must give some really good distortion. As you probably know if you watch the show, the only one that's familiar with modular here is Eon Lake. So does a modular mixer ring any bell to you?
Yeah, I was just having a look myself. I mean, typically you use mixers to do what's the same what you do in anything else. You take multiple inputs and hand off less outputs. I think it is based on the old Moog.
Yeah.
Ironically, it's easier to find circuit diagrams.
It's interesting. So maybe that's something we can talk to Ryan about if he can come on the show again, because I think that's interesting. I mean, we'll look more into it. Obviously, we're just demoing this, but now I'm really curious about the the lore of what's behind it and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did want to say though, and it's echoing what I said when we looked at Dr. Vibe initially, is the fact that some of these, well, the fact that these are available as iOS plugins. So the issues that I've had with iOS is not being able to do what I want to on it is everything sounds too damn good. I mean, the quality of the plugins on it, I'm sure you agree, you can get some really amazing sounding synths. The problem is that it's also clean and hi-fi. If you want to dirty stuff up, you need some third-party stuff. You need some plugins like this if you want to inject, some character to these sounds or degrade them or try and make them fit with other sounds that aren't necessarily, coming from an iOS device. So for me, these things are a godsend because they're addressing the one issue that I have, and that's just trying to take some of the shine off these really high quality sounds that you get now without using Koala, of course.
Yeah, Big Cooker, man, or Chroma Glow on Logic comes close, but it's not as nuanced as some of these and things like that. But yeah, I think that's one of the things, because we were talking about that because Mike is, of course, has to be with his Ableton. We've got Ableton Roar at home. That's one thing. Unless Ableton Roar is on iOS, which it could be, but I don't think so, then something like this comes in really handy when you're working on iOS, which I do quite frequently. And that's why I approach these as iOS apps first. And then, like Dr. Vibe, I throw on everything in Logic. Like all the stems I've made from SP and all that stuff, Dr. Vibe gets on there when I'm stem splitting it and things like that. So there is use for it for sure as a an actual plugin on a DAW. But that, I think, like thinking about it as iOS first, it opens up a lot of things you can do on iOS apps, like DAW type apps and things like that that may not have a ton of plugins and things like that on them or effects that you can use.
It's true, especially if you're new to it, or if you're using something like GarageBand or something like that, where it's not built on the computer and stuff like that. It is opens up new avenues and opens up new doors for those who are just getting into the production game.
Even Logic, Logic for iPad? There's, you need the third party. You can't just throw on a Cherry Audio synth or whatever, right? Like it doesn't work in that way. So at least I don't think so. It seems like it's more closed off. I haven't gotten to use Logic for iPad a ton, but from all of my uses, it's like you need those iOS apps that work. I mean, once you move it to Logic proper, you can use anything, right? You're on the desktop or on a Mac OS. But while you're on iOS, it comes in handy to have stuff like this. And then it translates right over to Mac OS and it's on there too. So I really like that universality of it.
And I mean, that just speeds up your workflow if you think about it, right? So once upon a time, the iPad was a sketch pad, which then you moved over to the computer to finish off, right? But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case anymore. It's just there. It's bang. You want to, if you are an Eon Lake kind of person where you do like gritty, debased, and forked up, so to speak, right there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we got to do the guitar left, right?
Yeah,
the guitar, and then we'll do a quick round robin because Eon Lake just had to hear drums first, of course.
For the traditionalists among us, with a guitar.
I'll play it through. I'll play the sample first and foremost, and I'll show you what it can do. Just as a note, it's a wet signal, so there's a little bit of reverb in the original sample, and the Fuzz Droid's done a really nice job of bringing that forward in that sense. Sadly, I don't think you'll get it through the compression, so which is why I want to mention it.
Maybe throw it up on the Discord after.
Yeah, all right, I will. But it does a really nice job of just making that reverb just a little bit more shimmery and in the space. It's lovely.
All right, let's check it out.
play it there. I'll start with that. So
that's crazy. I just want to mention it really made a profound difference when you switch between the type. It was all fuzzed up, and then you switched type, and it got way calmer until you started pushing the drive back up again.
Mm-hmm. It's really flexible in that regard, right? So you can just give it a little bit of crunch, and if you are, for example, plugging in directly into your iPad, or if you're plugging directly into your USB interface, you can just give it a little bit of subtlety, and it could be a rudimentary amp or an amp sim or something like that, and then you can go the whole other side of it. You can just start again destroying that sound. So if you're making something that is dirtier, it's got you.
Yeah, I like that. I'd love to hear some power chords through that. That'd be awesome.
What's particularly hilarious is if you look at the meters when this sound's going through it, it's absolutely flattened, not moving at all. It just goes up to a level. I noticed that when you were running the drums through it, but it's I really like what it does to a guitar, so that the crunch seems to really bring out some lovely harmonics. You can get a really heavy bluesy sound out of it. And you can really get a howling transistory sound out of it as well. It's pretty flexible as far as shaping tone from a guitarist point of view as well. I mean, it gives you enough difference in how it's driven and the tonality, but I really like it. I mean, it's capable of it does sound, when you really destroy it, it sounds like you're really thrashing something, something suffering.
Like special.
That's what I like.
Yeah, no, for sure. It does. And to your point about the flexibility too, or variety, that just noticing when we listened to that 909, when that started getting gritty, I mean, it really had that more synthetic grit to it, right? That
real bow bow.
Yeah. The kick was getting a lot of harmonic content to it, things like that. And then you throw it on that guitar, and it's much more like a classic fuzz sound. And I mean, it's also just the instruments being used, obviously, would cause that. But the fact that you have that, you also have a high and low pass filter, so you can tame the unwanted sounds, and then you can smooth things off, switch between the positive and negative, and all that type of stuff. There's a lot of flexibility in that, because I think, what is it? I have a I don't know where it is, but one of those big muff pies, the fuzz pedal, it's like 3 settings, right? It's like volume, tone, and gain or whatever, and that's it. But this, you can kind of tweak a little bit more, get some more nuance. It's similar to on Dr. Vibe when it comes to the compressor. You have way more options than the compressor on the actual SP, because the SP, you can just twist it up or twist it down, but on this one, you can change the envelope of it. You can change all that. So I like that you can get a little more nuanced in the effects changes and things like that, the settings of it.
I totally agree with you. I'd love to use this as a bus effect in the name of having it on an iPad where you're sending your audio into it, and then you can just kind of manipulate the sound as you go, because whether you're playing a drum, a synth, or a guitar, and there's room for it all. And
imagine bass through this.
Obviously, yeah.
Oh yeah, just put eight layers of bass, Curtis. You put 8 layers of bass through that. Man, just imagine the high harmonics you could get putting a bass through that. Use that as a second layer, cut the low end on it, right? And you just have all that character in the high end and the mid range, and then you can just get like the subby sound underneath. Yeah, that'd be cool.
303.
Oh yeah.
You could take people's heads off.
I like how all you needed to say was just some 303, and we're like, yeah.
I mean, it'd be good for leads, if you really want to get that overly saturated. I mean, what works for guitar lead will work for synth lead too, right? When you get that really oversaturated, thick singing tone, it's going to blast through a mix, isn't it?
Well, Curtis, that's true. Curtis, is there anything else you want to cover on this, or shall we move to a quick round robin and community corner before that?
Let's do the community corner and the round robin, because we've got to get off at the top of the hour. I do implore people to buy. I was talking to Sunwarper 24 hours ago or so about this, and I was a little bit skeptical, and I was a little bit, again, taking the mic approach. I've got it inside Ableton, and but it has grown on me And it is one of those where you just delve a little bit, peel back the onion just a little bit more, and you fall in love with it. It's really good.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mike too, not everyone uses Ableton.
Exactly, that's another big thing. So yeah,
But yeah,
it's all good.
I think, like I said, if you consider it first as iOS, it really makes a lot of sense with how much flexibility it gives on iOS apps that are DAWs or things like that. But then the fact that you can then move it to your actual DAW and do all that type of stuff, there's a lot of convenience, but also the sounds are just really good and they're a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not lying. I show on my live streams when I show the DAW, Dr. Vibe literally goes on almost everything in the DAW because I'm so used to coloring things with grit and drive on like the SP or the Digitact or the Tracker that when I get in the DAW, I'm like, it's too clean. I need to distort this. And so I just get that kind of warble and the tape sound and things like that, or the vinyl sound almost from Dr. Vibe. And then when you need that compressor, you can throw it right on there. So yeah, Ian, like anything else before we go into our community corner? Or did he freeze? I didn't know if he was deep in thought.
Yeah,
he did freeze. He's deep in thought. Now he's smiling. You were so deep, pensive in thought. I was like, he's either listening very intently or he's frozen.
No, I think we're good. I really like that fuzz one though. I think I'll have to have that and do some further experiments with it.
2-week free trial, and then I believe all of them are $15 afterwards. I'll verify that though with Ryan and put it in the comments once I find out. But yeah, because when I go online on the App Store, it's like free with in-app trials because it's with in-app purchases because it's a 2-week free trial. So, but from what I saw, it looks like they're still 15. So yeah, and also I don't think I got to say hi to one of our patrons, ASF Stripe. What's going on? Welcome. All right, Curtis, what's in the community corner this week?
Speaking of community, just a couple of PSAs, very quick. Let me come over to the docket so we see what's going on. First things first. Yeah, our Discord challenge for this run is up and running. The stems for Lingering Light are now in the Discord. So if you want to get involved in the remix challenge of that, head across to our Discord. The link is up to date and it is in the description. Come and check it out. This is the leading single from Sunwarper's new EP, which we released last week, along with some lovely cassettes, which we discussed last week as well. Boom, there we go. And yeah, we're all there. We got the stems coming through, and we're just gonna flip them and see what we create. The date for that is what? 2nd of April. I don't want to say. Why didn't I copy that through? I don't know, but I think it's 2nd of
6 weeks from last week. So
6 weeks, so 5 weeks from now, essentially. Yeah. And we are giving away a $10 Tom and gift card for the one deemed the best in the name of friendly competition. So yeah. What else we got? Yes, our next star stream is towards the end of March as well, where we'll be discussing it through. It's the last Sunday of March. That's always put in there. And yeah, and if that is our Patreon hangout, so there's a load of you patrons in the chat today, and this show is brought to you guys by our patrons. So thank you very much. The reason that we can do these demos and host this show and keep the lights on, as Sunwarper tends to say, is because of our patrons. And so we really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate you showing up every single week and putting in your questions and giving your opinions. It's lovely. So we really appreciate it. If you are listening or watching back, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it is that happens to be, or even here on YouTube, consider going across to patreon.com/audionautic and making a pledge. For $2, you can get involved in that star stream. So if you like this nerding out with synth stuff and you like talking about this stuff no end, where people who are like-minded and know what you're talking about, head across over to there, because Starstream's the place to be, the last Sunday of every month.
Yeah, if you also want to come on the show, share your opinions and things like that, patrons get to do that as well. So patreon.com/audionautic. With that, though, we're going to move over to our last kind of rapid fire round robin. I still got an extra R in there with the rapid, even though I had to break the alliteration with the F. But so you can give the context in a second, but I'm just going to say what we're going to do, because I think if we just name it quickly and maybe the why. You brought this, and this is really interesting. If you could play any historical instrument or instrument from history, famous or not, what would it be? So this is fascinating. I think we can do this quickly. Let's say the what and then the why real quick. Yeah, like you have to keep it to a sentence or two, all right? I don't know if you're up to the task.
Oh, he's gone. Ian, like you are currently muted, and we have just dropped Sunwarper, and that's totally fine.
I'm in coughing mode. Yeah, I think that's what's known as the wrong button.
I can talk double now because Sunwarper's gone. No stuff, my friend. I'm back. But Curtis, real quick, what was the context or reason why you brought this to the table? I love this question. It's great. It really got me thinking. I was like, and I'd love chat if you'd share yours while we talk about this.
This comes because, and I'll be very quick because I know that we've got to get off. The Sigil Collection Volume 1 is a sound library. It's an American sound museum, and they made a sound library. And they have sampled very famous and integral instrumentation. For example, they have sampled the piano from 1845 played by Chopin, and they've sampled a harpsichord from 1761 that King George III gave to Queen Charlotte on their wedding day. That's the kind of stuff that they've sampled, and that's really interesting. Right, like that's not just your everyday sample pack or contact library. That's pretty cool, right?
And then you feed that sound into a session player. It's such an insult.
That would be
Get that
horrible.
AI on those historic.
Let's sample that so that I can play it on pads with my fists.
Yeah. There you go.
Just put it through a unison MIDI chord pack. So
that's still cool though. The fact you can do that though,
right? It's cool. It got me thinking. You know, these are pretty famous. These are pretty cool, and it just, you know, if you could play any instrument from history, you know, famous or not, what would it be? And that's what we want to know. And if you listening back or if you're watching live, if you want to put your ideas in there, that would be really cool, because this is genuinely just a what do you think kind of situation. No tips, no tricks, just where you at. Sunwarper, do you want to kick us off?
I was gonna say let's put the pressure on Eon Lake so he can be quick, and if he's not quick, then we'll just end it with Eon Lakes.
All right, I was going to go with an early Buka system, but I changed my mind and decided Tonto. It's a massive modular thing. It's now in the Calgary and there's a national music center there, I think.
How do you spell
it? It's actually TONTO.
Modular.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can.
It's a ridiculous thing. It fills a room in a big sort of semicircular sort of loads of cabinets. Looks like fun.
The machine behind Stevie Wonder's Superstition.
I think it would keep you busy for a while.
There's a lot of
you could do there. Need lots of very long batch cables, I think.
Curtis, can you just in a second?
Have you seen it? No, is that what?
This thing's huge.
Of course.
That looks like a lot.
I'd like to go Tonto on Tonto.
Trying to find a good image for it.
I'll find
it. Does it stand for the original new? What is it? Timbral Orchestra or something?
Yeah, it's an acronym.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to find a good image of it. You got it?
Bring it up. I got it here. Yeah, let me bring it up. I'll zoom in once I've shared it. Look at this.
There it is. Yeah, look at that. I love how right in the front. Yeah, Tonto. That's crazy.
It does look crazy. It looks fantastic in that regard. So that's a good choice, Eon Lake.
There are some blank panels and some big dials and stuff on there, so it's not quite as mental as you might think. But
I wonder how big that keyboard is right at the bottom there, because it seems small, but that's compared to everything in reference, right? You know.
It's a good way of looking at it. It looks like a lot of fun. That's what
you get in a quick fire round.
I can get with that. Sunwarper, what about you, man? What's on your end?
Oh, I think it would have to be the guitar Hendrix played at Woodstock.
Okay.
You know, the
Okay.
maple neck
The one he
Fender
burned,
Strat.
right?
I don't know did he burn that one? I don't know if he burned it, but I think that was at Monterey or something. I think that was a different performance, but no, it's a blonde, like blonde or white Fender, and then maple neck, and it has that bigger headstock rather than, for a while they kind of shrunk the like contours of the headstock. That would be mine. I always loved that guitar since I was a little kid. So when I saw that, the first thing that came to my head was like, yep, that. Yep. Also, just real quick, I'd be curious to actually play a 59 Les Paul to see if it's all just hype about how amazing those 1959 Les Pauls are. I'd be very curious. But really, my real answer is that Fender, because that's one that I would like actually want to play and stuff. But it's more curiosity about hype or not about the 59 Les Paul, because everyone just glorifies it as like the greatest thing ever, and I'm just curious.
I hear you. I'm curious and skeptical. Everything's hype and marketing and branding, isn't it? At the end of the day?
Yep. Yeah, because then they can sell the replicas for like 20,000 or whatever, or 10,000 or whatever. So
exactly. It's just it's all marketing. Yeah, it's a good choice. It's a good choice.
What's yours?
Myself, I don't know if I'm bending my own rules here a little bit, but I'd like to be let loose in the radiophonic workshop. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Just purely for the history, just for the history of it all. So like, I don't suppose anything's mega. Like if you go to the Tonto, if you were to go to Tonto Module, I'm sure you could create all sorts of weird and wonderful sounds. I kind of want to just go to where they made Doctor Who and look at like what you can do with the sine wave, and just these guys in the early stages of electronic music before it was even keyboards and it was just oscillators and tape machines, and just see what.
And scraping a key up a piano string.
Yeah.
Hardest noise. Yeah.
Interesting. Beautiful, right? And it's just that kind of bare bones kind of in this world where we got DAWs and everything at your fingertips. Just how you create the very bare minimum of sound design techniques and stuff like that. That'd be a really cool place to be.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be sick. All right. Anything else before we go?
I picked a drum kit. There's a million drum kits I could have picked.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you went with something crazy. I've never heard of that. That's really interesting. That would be a cool one to play with. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, then we'll be back next week, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. What is that? 7 p.m. UTC. Massive thanks to our patrons who support us. Again, if you want to join, the link is in the description. We encourage everyone to head to the Discord, though. The Discord is open for all. We've got that challenge, $10 gift card if you want to partake. But it's just a really cool place where we talk about all this type of stuff, all the nerdy synth stuff. If someone says 303, we'll know exactly what you're talking about, as Eon Lake did earlier. But yeah, with that, we will be back next week. Curtis, anything before we go?
Much love to everyone. Have a wicked week.
I was waiting for you to go, no. And then catch yourself.
I'm learning.
Yeah, see? Look at that. Character progression, right? All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.